All right. It is Third Thursday. We are live streaming, as has been for a few months now. We're with Creative Cat, Sylvia Blalock, and your coach, Elaine, on Facebook Live, Third Thursday. And the category today is forgiveness. And as you can tell from my Creative Cat's reaction, this is a topic that we've been pondering for at least 60 days. And over the course of 60 days, we've toyed with it, we've played with it. At the beginning of this week, we tried to do something with it that, put us at a point where we're going to hit pause. We'll talk about our progress report on forgiveness, but that is the category today. And yeah, we're just going to always open up with a quote because this is a best practice we've picked up from our old corporate days of working together, from a leader who always opened up our meetings with a quote. And we're just gonna pay homage to this individual in the universe. Thank you for having your cool index card. Forgiveness is the greatest gift you can give yourself, by Maya Angelou, who is a woman who inspires many. And I know for my poet, Creative Cat, Maya makes a definite impression. So that's really how we're entering today's space. And yeah, this is who we are. So let me get us started. So Sylvia Blalock, poet, author, founder of Queendom Networks, Uprising Radio host, someone I've known for at least a couple of decades now. We started out with in Oakland together on the 10th floor, aka Rep Heaven. We're still grieving for the juice joint, other places.
The various eateries of times past.
Flat fortune cookies that one of our friends would bring through for lunch, where you didn't even need to work to open it. It was already open like a pancake.
Oh, the days. Best
And
office and worst office. The best hoagies ever.
Right. And so from those days all the way through moving from one office to another, and a friendship that has lasted, that is now a family, because I did marry her brother, this nefarious 20-year-old somebody that I initially met, and over time through a Christmas party and stuff, here we are, family. And so Sylvia brings such artistry with her words, with her voice as a singer, and just a great energy that connects a community of poets together to talk through what they're up against in the creative process. And she's also, and I'll flash it at the end, the book cover that is available on Amazon for purchase, Uprising, a book of poetry. So that is Sylvia Blalock.
Hello, and thank you, Elaine Dezon, my coach, Elaine. I really am going to open this with a poem that is even now, it's still evolving, as is my forgiveness process. I am, at the very least, grateful that I am addressing it, and I know where I am, that I am being honest about where I am, and that it isn't something that is creating a churn. There's a lot that we have to do to survive the struggle that we will one day have to forgive ourselves for. We should not make our burdens more than they need to be, or more than we can bear, by refusing to forgive what we cannot change, what we won't erase, what people won't apologize for, but what we can't let go. What peace there is to be gained from its giving feels so short-lived when the act feels like it burns through and again through. And still, the act itself is meant to be the gift. What about these holes? What about these spaces left in me? The things that were done before the act is pardoned live and bloom and blossom as though they are their own entity, when in fact, the only entity involved is thee and me. And all else lives and dies on the clouds we create for them, that we ride to nowhere. The spaciousness now of my own spirit echoes with new promise, now void of the collection of the unforgiven, joyless treasures I clutch so greedily as my only compensation for a life lived, because that's all I chose to claim. And in this, forgiveness did indeed give me a glimpse into those treasures that I still believe to be in hands found empty. That's a piece.
Wow. And that was written just this morning, wasn't it?
Written in freestyle. I wrote parts and I've been saying it as it comes. I have to transcribe it from this because there's more here than there is there. But it's a piece, it's part of my process. Some of the pieces write themselves. There's something about what you think you're forgiving that is actually not really what you're forgiving. And it's just the thing you're holding on to. When you look and see that that thing is already passed, and what you're even holding on to isn't really what you're holding on to. It's just part of your story.
Ooh.
It's been.
Ooh. What you've been holding on to isn't the thing you're holding on to.
Not really. When we are to pardon ourselves or someone else, the thing we're holding on to, they did that thing, I did that thing, forgiveness must happen, isn't really the thing. It is, that thing is a part of the story and the framing of the actual issue or concern or thing that must be addressed. And all of the things you're storing and carrying, when you look down at your hands and see that you don't even care about that thing, you really don't. It is how you feel, how they feel, the situation, the results that happen, and what needs to be fixed or healed. That's really it. It doesn't matter what was done. What needs to be healed is what we're really talking about. So forgiveness is pardon. They say it's grace, but grace happens from a higher place. And if we think of it as accepting grace and not giving grace, then forgiveness is us accepting grace, a forgiveness higher than we're able to at least find our way to it. So that's what I'm doing.
I'm taking it in because in like over 108 hours, you have shifted from Sunday to today about this forgiveness. And wow, what a noticing, man.
This is not a plug for those of you that think this is a plug. I cannot express enough that you being willing to do this and look into forgiveness, both as a peer and as a coach, and do it in a way that, I'm going to like, nope, not going to do it. Burn. I will never forget, never. I'm better now, y'all. But
If we were on different strokes, it would literally be, what are you talking about, Willis moment. That's what it was on Sunday.
Oh my God. Y'all, I can only say it takes true courage to really stand in there when people are when it is not just going, to still, I've only come this far and being able to say, okay, I understand it's bigger than what I think I can't forgive.
Mm-hmm.
You made me think about a lot of things. What really is unforgivable?
Ooh, what a great question.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. You.
Hey, hey,
You really gave me some space to look at it a little differently. What really is unforgivable?
wow. And there are individuals, there are leaders, there are people who've written books who have forgiven things that I can't ever imagine, right? That I have not experienced or been exposed to, but I do believe there are survivors of things that have forgiven perpetrators. I have watched movies about these things taking place, and what you're talking about, that very question, what really is unforgivable, is a great question to pause and reflect on, for sure. And I'm glad that you discovered that over the last few days, because it really is a hallmark to um, rethinking, right? I read Adam Grant's Think Again recently. Not a plug, y'all, not a plug, but yes, I I have it right here.
So
And
happens.
and I think, when he talks about this rethinking process and this learning culture, that is those learning edges and growth edges that we encounter throughout our life. Just when you think you arrived and you think you learned the lesson, no, you didn't learn the lesson. There's always more to learn. And that's what I think our Third Thursdays has helped elucidate over the last few months, is the learning that you and I have been going through over this last year as a consequence of 2020 putting us in a situation where we were very sequestered, feeling a little lonely, like who can I go to talk about this stuff? And here we are, right, talking about it a little more openly in this world that is still volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And for anyone watching, if you're feeling there's nowhere to land, or am I the only one thinking about this stuff, or am I worrying too much, you're not alone. I think many people
No.
go through this in terms of, what now?
Look, how much more? I tell you, you can only take with so much news in a week. And what is it, Thursday? I swear, yesterday around 10 o'clock a.m., I turned off the TV and I would only turn on Spotify. It was like, either I will check in to see more. Oh, okay, now I'm going back to music because I'm being confronted with, yet more interesting upheaval. Oy,
Boy.
oy.
And it's okay, right? It's okay to take a break. And I think one of the things that come up with all the rise of social media and all the platforms and being so public about things is this immediate reaction to address current events quickly, right? And I really appreciate the posts that have been coming out lately, about the time one can take to think about, what do I want to say in a way that is respectful, that is aligned with who I am, and addressing the current events, and not be so quick. And I think that's an outcome from many other current events in the past 18 months, where there's a quick glimpse and a share, glimpse and a share, glimpse and a forward. And it's like, are you really reading what you're sharing? And I saw this evolution of, why don't you click the link before you share it? And so all of a sudden Twitter started advocating that before you share this, why don't you read it? Yeah, like check your position, fact check. Is this really what you want to share? And in the absence of not sharing so quickly, giving everyone the space to not immediately think they don't care, they don't have an opinion. It's a very incredible moment where there's acknowledgement of something happening. I need to take some time to understand what is happening, understand the issue at a deeper level, and then share. And when I find peers or other entrepreneurs or other creatives that capture the essence of where I'm at, I shared it earlier this week where, silence does not mean I don't care. Silence just means I'm taking care to know more and also take a break, because some of it, to your point, is a lot. It's a lot to take on. It's a lot to think about. And for mental health, taking that technology detox can be a shift to meter the influx of information coming at you.
Very true. Very true. I guess in being a looper, I would like to say that some of my annoyance forgiveness is for people who share things that they don't actually research, that they will click it, not necessarily click, they'll bait click you. And I have such a low tolerance for it that I can be really surprisingly dismissive in ways that I don't like to be. And before I started, graciously forgiving myself for being a jerk, I thought maybe you should forgive them and kind of be on the hook a little longer for being less patient. What came of that is a video that I should be done Tuesday on internet safety and why you shouldn't just share things because of the headline, and why you shouldn't click on that link. So far too, that I think I'm going to do friendly announcements with poetry on why I'm this way. And then once I do that, I will forgive myself. But I forgive people for doing what seems like a fun thing to do, share the cool thing. And I'm not quite as intolerant. So that's a thing.
And, as we think about the topic, right, you brought up self-forgiveness. And I was always, the act of forgiving or forgiveness itself. And you've piqued my interest around self-forgiveness. I think that is something that is truly a gift for yourself, right?
There's a lot that we have to do. There's a lot of us who've done a lot to survive the struggle that we will one day have to forgive ourselves for. Do not make your burden more than it needs to be. Mm-hmm. That is something I started saying a while ago. I don't think we should rush to forgive ourselves because it's a good way to not be accountable if you're not careful what you mean by pardon. Note last presidency. But pardon, as in once you forgive it, it's done. You can't be retried for it, as it were. Really helps put in perspective what forgiving yourself is about. It's not that you are not being accountable. It is that you put it to rest, you accept and acknowledge, and no further trial on this will be allowed. You're done. And that's it. Stop suffering for it.
Yeah. And I take that message to heart because, one of the greatest challenges for me has been to take that pause before I react to my kids, Like, let me
Mm.
not come out the gates at 150. Like, let me come out the gates at 10. And as a parent, as a child of one parent in particular who yelled quite a bit, yes, the slipper in the hand, when said slipper was hidden, a wooden spoon was in the other hand. When said wooden spoon was hidden, all of a sudden the compatriot in the effort came out with a leather belt that was used so much and split down the middle. It became not just a belt, but a two-headed snake coming at you for being disrespectful. And I was just like, that's normal for me. Like, yeah, okay. And these times, yeah, we're not spanking, but definitely there's a difference between a raised voice and yelling. And that became very clear about 2 years ago. And I acknowledge the fright my children had when I had a certain look and tone to my voice. And it goes to what you were mentioning, right? It starts out really small. The small things, the buggy things. And so what happens over time is those small things that bother me become irksome and annoyances, and all of a sudden it just continues to build.
Okay.
And then it just becomes grievances and resentments, and now I have to work through something that's much bigger than it had to be. To your point, right? You don't need it to make it such a burden that you get started. And so when I was talking to you about today, right,
Mm.
one of the things that I landed on as what I learned about 2 years ago
Mm.
was this principle about forgiving early and often. That if I practice this way earlier in my parenting journey, then being able to let it go for more possibility to enjoy my relationship with my children, and that there's a way to relate to them that is very true, that is very heartfelt, even if it is annoying, because that's not the thing. As you said, right? It's not the thing that they're annoying, it's the thing that's with me. And when I learn to move past it and it is done, I do check in with them, and they're very confident in their opinion.
Empowered, they're calling it. Empowered.
So
Okay.
so as I check in, hey, how am I doing on the yelling? Pretty good, not so bad, not so bad. Okay, great. And as I continue down that journey of being very present versus being very reactionary, then I'm better in the game at being a parent than I was 2 years ago. And that's all I could really focus my energy and attention towards, is being very present. So I'm not reacting and just really, okay, I know this is like the seventh time. We really need to think of a way for you to be more independent, da 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 da. And then I get the reminder, he's only 6, he's only 7. Why
Well,
don't you just relax?
you know, why when
Because,
I was your age.
right. So I just feel that this idea of doing it and not retrying it is fascinating. And when you do it early, you just get it done early. It's like it's like a parking ticket versus a big old thing.
Okay. You know, when you first said that, early and often, I'm like, eye roll. Okay, so deep sigh. But I have to say, I understand better that getting ahead of it, there's a reason to get ahead of it. And that reason has to do with if you go into it not even knowing if you want to forgive, you don't want to forgive. It really is not that complicated. If you don't go into it being able to forgive it, go into the process of examining whatever the issue is, the hurt is, the act is, the words are, whatever, behaviors, well, then you already know you really aren't going into it to forgive. You're going into it to what? Are you going into it to relive it? If you can't even say, I'm willing to forgive this when you begin to address it, then acknowledge you're not, and understand that you're not going into this to forgive. You're going into this to recapture the magic,
right?
Such as it is.
And I think too, as you're talking about that, there are instances where what you think is a matter of forgiveness dissipates because you're showing up to the moment in a different way that is incredibly more receptive, where there is nothing to even forgive. It is just a thing. It is an experience. It is a moment. And what you think is going to happen that will require forgiveness later is not going to happen because you're not entering that moment anticipating it. You're entering that moment like, we're here together to do a thing that we're both looking forward to doing, and we're going to take great joy in it. And when you show up in that capacity to be a partner, to be an effective manager or an effective leader or whatever you want to be in that moment. And for me, it's really about being a kind and loving family member. When I show up to do that, the seventh time doesn't matter, because I'm just trying to get you to put your thing in the thing so I don't step on it with my foot because I got a race coming up, man. Like, that's
please.
I need some support here. Just put, man, like, just put. If you can't see it, y'all, this is what I contend with. This little sword gets all over the place, and when it's poking out of the carpet and it's time for a raise, I'm at risk, like my physical safety.
Oh, goodness. So when you have to go full on Perry Mason to really justify the why you don't want the toys, is it really about the toys though?
No, it's about the race. It's about preserving my feet.
Oh my goodness.
To get it in the shoe, to get to the place where I got to make it from start to finish. And so when you think about the whole why about it, okay, so it isn't about being a parent that's cool. It's like, yo, I got a race. That's really important to me.
My safety.
Yeah.
Right? You're killing me. You are killing me. For those that don't know, the dripping with sarcasm on the one side, and on the other side of there is what we say that doesn't get to, I need to know that I am parenting or not. In my case, that is not a consideration. It is, I need to know that I have done all that I can before I completely lose my cool. I have expressed, I have explained, I've actually pulled the little thing out of my foot a few times. I've done all that I can do. Am I now in the space to say, okay, this wasn't the best of days for any of us? Am I going to be able to let this go?
I think you are. I think you are on the journey to letting it go. And I think one of the things that, we talked about was, once we forgive, it's not a matter of it having to pass an acceptance test to the other party, right? This is strictly in our domain, in what we own, which is like who we really are. I am gonna forgive this person. They don't need to know I'm doing it. They don't need to put their stamp of approval like, yes, Sylvia, A+.
Good job. Oh, goodness.
Right? It is for you to give to yourself.
Maya says, it is the greatest gift that you can give to yourself. Forgive everyone. And the emptiness of not holding on to what the grudge, I won't say all of them, but enough of them that I have been able to let go of, to just see them fall out of my hands. And what used to be there is now filled with not so much. There actually is room to see what the good things were and what the lessons were. You know, I've got to dig through my storage unit, which has a whole bunch of bags of fabric that I'm never going to use and crafty things I'm never going to do. And oh, wait, that collector lamp I've been looking for is back. So, yeah, I've had to get past the clutter to get to the real treasures.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some lessons I need now, that holding on to all that was not good is really not allowing absorption of some gems. It wouldn't be such a hard forgive if it wasn't such a big thing.
Yes. And I had a big thing. Like I had before the children, before the children, having to forgive somebody who told me my mother's death was irrelevant. That took a lot. I mean, how can somebody say that? To just be so dismissive. I'm just going to erase what could be the most pivotal moment of your life. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. And that took a long time for me to just even be in the same room with the individual, to understand that at that age, I was not prepared to receive that message. I think that was said when I was 16, 17. So this is 3 or 4 years after.
Mm-hmm.
And, and just how callous, how mean spirited. And so, yeah, I mean, I went down the road of some guerrilla tactics, if you would, like,
You
hey.
know what? The toothbrush story comes to mind, and I'm not going to repeat that. I'm just going
So,
to say, I remember that.
so inconveniences arose, disruption, all of these things,
Things
but
happen.
but it wasn't who I really was. And I think that was where the rub was. Like, here I am, living with what was said, doing things that's not in alignment with who I truly am. And then it all of a sudden isn't about what was said. It's about how I'm behaving. It's about what I'm doing. And that caused greater tension for me. And it wasn't until way later when I got more life skills, life skills under my hat, right? Where, I can't continue to carry this because it is not giving me enough space or runway to be who I'm really meant to be, which is a more supportive daughter, a more supportive sister, and receiving the life that would eventually be my own and my children. And I don't think it's by accident that some of this stuff happens. I think it happens for a reason, where shedding the stuff away gives way more space for me to recognize, acknowledge, and feel that blessing at a deeper level. And so when it came to pass that it was time to forgive after all was said and done, it was really easy for me to do it because everybody has their day of reckoning. It is not for me to decide when and how that happens.
I'm going to do a poem.
Is it because I said reckoning?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, this was not planned, y'all.
It isn't. We don't generally do it like this, but yes. So faint, you must feel it more than see it. Shimmer against my retina, cones and rods, tingle awake after what seems a lifetime of darkness. Glitter, stipple, pinhole symphony in my darkness, I see you. No trick to my eyes you are, the light I knew was there. By grace I am propelled toward you. By both momentum and purpose I see beyond the fervent reach of my tips. As though created by their wave, the sparkle of a goal achieved, almost there, so tired, so ready to be relieved of the anger. Yet through the depths, I must yet still rise until this goal is realized. So close the light renders all else irrelevant, except its dismissal might better be spent, invested in the execution of what remains to be done. We have further to go until our fingers touch the sun, and through this light that forgiveness provides, at least this battle will be won.
Ooh.
So I wrote that like 2 years ago.
Ooh.
There's a surfacing of coming out of the blinders, surfacing as though coming up through water, but coming to the light when you've been traveling through something, not seeing anything but it, and you just start getting the light that is beyond it, and you just start seeing that you've been really submerged in it for so long that your eyes are starting to adjust to coming out of it. And there is a almost spiritual momentum to the coming out of it that propels you forward out if you let it. You just have to see it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was that poem. Thank y'all.
2 years ago, huh?
See. Wow.
Is that in the book?
This is the second book, Surfacing, coming soon. Surfacing was all about coming out of dark places.
Nice. Ooh, I just love how you're doing this. Like you're just always, there's that upward movement, uprising, surfacing.
Yes. That is exactly
I get it. I get it. I'm not a
You
poet,
so
but I
crafty.
get
I
it.
love it. You know what? This is why we work well together. She totally gets me.
Wow. I love how this is why I find poets so interesting, because you mentioned retina, rods, and cones. That's not something I would traditionally imagine in a poem, but here it is. And it is it goes back to, right, even in challenging situations, in the less opportune situations, we have the enablement, we have the physical stuff, or the hopefully awareness to proceed. So even in darkness, we still have that moment where we can adjust and allow the body to work for us and lead us where we need to go. Wow.
You got it. I don't even have anything to add to that. You got it. Yep.
Wow. And you know, when you talk about forgiveness, right, it does require a skill. It is a skill. It is not something that comes naturally for some individuals. I mean, I know, woo. I'm going back to where that the hanging on to ridiculous stuff, right? I'm talking about open time. Ridiculous stuff. But really, is that what you're mad about?
Are we still here? Some things we hold on to because it's all we have of that. And we didn't even store good things to go back to those lessons. There is an African concept, Sankofa, of putting our seeds in a hole behind us, burying them. Either they grow or we come back for them, and their eggs or their seeds, depending on who you ask. And being able to go back to the past to get those lessons that we stored for later is what Sankofa is about. And I tell you, when we store things and what we think we're storing is a nugget and what we're storing is some bitter old crap that we should have resolved and left there, it's never too late. I posed that question, is it ever too late to forgive? And I thought about it, the person passes. Is it too late to be forgiven? They pass and they don't give you that forgiveness. And I don't think we understand really what forgive and grace is, and that it never is too late to do or ask for. If the person has passed on that you're asking, ask, and then spend the rest of your life living their apology, not necessarily being sorry to the world, but certainly if you are giving an apology to someone who is in spirit, well, the rest of your days will be, at the very least, that apology to some degree, and see if you get it.
Mm-hmm.
And never say, well, they're gone now, so onward. That's not how it works.
No, it isn't. I think
we make our burdens too hard to bear.
Yes. And I think when someone allows the space for the possibility that what you are bearing is likely not as important to the person you had that action against, maybe that forgiveness can surface. I think about somebody in my family who still carries deep regret for disrespecting somebody. And it's haunting, and it's sad when you're in a conversation and the conversation generally turns, like when you're in a deep conversation and they're having that courageous conversation with somebody about this deep regret. And wouldn't it be wonderful to rethink this idea of the past and going back to that hole where you buried this nugget in? And can this nugget bear you something different this time?
See how we did that? You see how we did that? I hate to say that I feel old sometimes, but I'm going to. So deal with that, y'all. Being petty wasn't always a character trait. Being bitter and carrying a grudge didn't always seem to be somebody's right. Like, I want to be angry. I want to carry this. Not only do I not want to forgive you, but I don't want to be forgiven. I want to be in this state because there is some value that I get out of feeling that I can affect people. I feel some sense of personal power if I can make you uncomfortable. Is that forgivable? Because before you, Elaine, you had to be sorry to be forgiven. You had to be sorry to be forgiven. And so, no, not everybody was forgivable. And the fact that what I am doing is forgiving them, pardoning them for bad behavior, not expecting an apology, not expecting it to change. expecting that they will probably continue to do it. This is a real pardon, because I'm pardoning you for stuff you haven't done yet, Father. And look, look, the question really is, do I feel I have a right to be angry? I have earned the right to this anger, this churn, this inability to move forward. I have earned the right to build this golfing handicap into my life game, because those acts actually happen and they're not sorry. So I get to ride this wave of bitterness until I'm good and damn ready not to. See how that doesn't work? That doesn't work. It doesn't work. What am I willing? What am I willing to forgive to live my life? Who told me that? Had the nerve to ask me that question. Thanks, Elaine. But the fact is, on a sisterhood level, what are you willing to forgive to move on with your life? To live your life, not move on, but live it right now, your best life. What are you willing to forgive?
Mm-hmm.
What pain do you believe you're entitled to?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They got me with the banana in the tailpipe on that one, because pain that I'm entitled to.
Banana in the tailpipe. So we're going to start wrapping it up. I mean, this is, I think, the landscape of what is forgivable or not is vast, and it happens at different times and different levels, different moments. And it's a skill you develop, and it's a skill you develop for those moments when there are situations to forgive, but more importantly, there are likely less to be those situations when you show up in a way that is truly who you are and engaged with people in a way that sees everyone as a hero with their own story, with their own right to live their life the way they want to. And I think we're all just on this path to figuring stuff out. And we're all going to make mistakes. There are some mistakes that are harder to bear than others, but just that whole idea of, you know, what are you willing to forgive to make room for something else? So that was the crux of this third Thursday's conversation. So if you've been listening, thank you. And so I just want to show and share how you can find us, because, you know, we're in different spaces, we're in different places, and that is where we are going to be. So here's where you could see Sylvia Blalock, Uprising Radio. It's an online radio network featuring poetry and spoken word. And that's her book, y'all. That's her book. That's the cover. So when you look at it in Amazon and query Uprising, a book of poetry, that's what you'll see. It is for sale. And it is the precursor to her second book, Surfacing.
Yes.
And you can also find her on Instagram and Facebook with a Facebook page for Uprising Radio. And this is where you could find me. I'm on all the socials at Your Coach Elaine. I dropped a monthly blog on Milo talking about the parenting journey. And I'm going to have a workshop next month that's a prologue to the Conscious Parent book study that I will be hosting in October. So if any of this interests you, ping us. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, what you would like us to talk about, because we're game. We're game to talk about a lot of things, because we have that kind of relationship where we could go there without all the gory details unless we absolutely have to, but we just love not topping the waves or skimming over, but really digging into, yeah, there are some big things ahead to forgive, and just ramping up to that and building that skill over time is incredibly important. So Sil, why don't you close this out with any other final thoughts you have on this very, very fine day in August, which is somebody's birthday. I just remembered.
Okay, so yeah. So Elaine brings up what exactly I wanted to talk about. I think that Yeah. I'm going to be honest and say that today is my dad's birthday, Robert Custer. I'm not sure, but is it his 70th birthday? I can neither confirm nor deny the actual age because he lies about it so much. So much. But if you know anything about Robert Custer, you will know that he is really an intelligent man. Here, so much of who I am today is because I had a crush on a teacher's aide at Golden Gate Elementary School. He was tall, he had a big afro, wore bell bottoms with rhinestone pyramids on the cuffs. He would tell me to look things up in the dictionary, and that is how I learned the word imagination. He exposed me to literature, music, alternative thought, and conflict resolution. He made me know what I was talking about before I would argue it, and to make others know their stuff before stepping to me. He later became my stepfather, verbal sparring partner, and inspiration. Some of the toughest relationships you will ever have will be the ones that teach you and shape you the most. Happy birthday, Dad.
Wow, what a great way to end this third Thursday. Happy birthday from America to y'all all the way over on another continent. If you're catching
Wow.
this, yeah, happy birthday. And what a way to celebrate it on a Facebook Live. So thanks for
Boom.
watching, everybody. Catch us in October. We're taking a hiatus because this was a deep one. We're going to need a little time to get through this one and finish out this journey around forgiveness. And we'll be back in October. So yeah, thank you for watching, and we will catch you on the flip side.
Bye.